might discover.
He's a really sweet kid, isn't he?
Yeah, I guess so.
How to be nice.
Good night, Santa. Good night, Mrs. Santa's sister. Santa!
Billy Bob Thornton, Bernie Mac, Tony Cox. Bad Santa.
I beat up some kids today, but it's for a purpose. Made me feel good about myself.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. Well, with Christmas just around the corner, I'm ramping up the Christmas content on the channel. So we've got quite a few Christmas film reviews coming up on the channel leading up to Christmas. But also, as well, you've got my top 10 list to look forward to, my top 10 favourite films of the year, my top 10 least favourite films of the year, and my top 10 favourite games of the year. So plenty of content leading up to Christmas. And today, I want to do a double review for two of my favourite Christmas films. Well, my favourite alternate Christmas films, I think it's fair to say. And that is Bad Santa and Bad Santa 2. So we'll start with the first one, which is Bad Santa, that was released in 2003. It was directed by Terry Zwigoff, and it stars Billy Bob Thornton, Bernie Mac, Lauren Graham, John Ritter, Tony Cox, and Brent Kelly. Now, Bad Santa focuses on Billy Bob Thornton's character Willie and his partner, Tony Cox's character Marcus. And essentially they've got this racket going once a year. Billy Bob Thornton's character Willie plays the Santa at a department store, and Tony Cox's character Marcus plays like the elf, because he's a dwarf. And then on Christmas Eve, they rob the department store, move on to another state, and do the racket again the following year, somewhere else. And this one particular year, they choose this department store to once again plan to rob the department store on New Year's Eve. But what Willie doesn't count on, Billy Bob Thornton's character, is growing a conscience, as he is staying at a young boy's, Thurman Merman's house, played by Brett Kelly, and he is reluctantly looking after this kid while he's staying there, and he slowly but surely grows a Christmas conscience as the film goes on. Very reluctantly grows a Christmas conscience. Now, why do I like Bad Santa so much? Because it still retains its spirit of Christmas, this film. Despite everything, and this film is definitely raw, it's definitely rude, it's definitely crude, it's got all of those things, but at the very, very core of this film is still the Christmas spirit, and that's one of the reasons I really, really love this film. Also the fact that it's absolutely hilarious. I'm not sure if there's been many more films with as many F-bombs as this film, or as many swear words in general. But they've never been delivered with so much passion than this film. I think Billy Bob Thornton here creates an iconic character. I think one of the most iconic Christmas characters in regards to Willie. This alcoholic, sex-addicted, awful human being who you feel there is no chance of this guy ever redeeming himself, and then along comes Thurman Merman, this strange little kid who kind of steals his heart, really. He also ends up having like a relationship with Lauren Graham's character in the film, who is like a barmaid with a heart that they kind of end up getting together, and that's really quite a sweet relationship. Bernie Mac, bless him, bless his soul, and John Ritter play like employees at the department store. Bernie Mac plays like the head of security who wants to get in on the act. But Billy Bob Thornton and Tony Cox steal this film. They're the heart of this film, as well as Thurman Merman. But them two together are comedy gold, and they will literally have you crying with laughter, and as will this film. And if you've never seen Bad Santa, prepare for some rudeness and crudeness, but also prepare to be laughing, and also prepare to enjoy actually a really fine Christmas film. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It really is genuinely one of my favourite Christmas films, and that will lead us nicely on to
Let's go time. What is he doing here? Elf,
you got smaller.
I even got minis for the munchkin.
Don't you ever call me that.
If you got a problem with that, you take it up with the Lollipop Guild.
Shut the hell up.
Cash only, $10 or more, hundreds or better.
Look at those cheeks. That's the ugliest baby on the planet.
Damn.
Bad Santa 2. Now this one was released in 2016, so a good few years after the first one, 13 years in fact. And it was directed by Mark Waters, and once again we get Billy Bob Thornton. We also get Tony Cox returning, as well as Kathy Bates, Christina Hendricks and Brett Kelly once again returns as Thurman Merman. Now this time round, like I say, there's a 13-year gap. So Thurman Merman is now 21 years old, which I think is brilliant. We get a new, completely different dynamic, even though he's just as strange as he was in the first film. A wonderful, wonderful character. But in this one, Willie's in exactly the same position. He's still a raging alcoholic. Very little has changed in his life. Nothing to live for. And then he's contacted once again by Tony Cox's character Marcus, who has now got out of prison after what happened at the end of the first film. And he's got another job for Billy Bob Thornton's character Willie. They have to go to Chicago to meet an associate and basically rob a charity on Christmas Eve. And the payoff this time is going to be $2 million. Initially, Billy Bob Thornton is not keen on this idea for two reasons. The first reason is Tony Cox tried to kill him at the end of the first film. And the second reason is Kathy Bates is that associate in Chicago, and she also happens to be Billy Bob Thornton's mother in the film. And he absolutely despises his mother and doesn't trust her as far as he can throw her. So the dynamic here is very, very interesting and very, very funny. He ultimately agrees, and they have to then go and work for this charity for a few weeks leading up to Christmas, dressed as Santa and the elf again, in order to get themselves into this charity, figure everything out in order to rob them on Christmas Eve. Right, Bad Santa 2. Now when this one came out, it was nowhere near as well received as the first one. Now the first one was no blockbuster, don't get me wrong, but it is more respected critically, I suppose, and with audience members. This one not so much, which kind of surprises me because I actually think this is a very, very good sequel. I've rewatched both of these to prepare for these reviews, and thoroughly enjoyed them both. And I think it's the third time I've seen the second one now, and I have to say I thought it was really fine. I mean, in regards to the continuation of the story after a 13-year gap, I think they did a really, really good job here. They moved the story cross-country to Chicago, different setting. Thurman Merman's now 21, again, a different dynamic in a lot of ways, but that relationship is still there with him and Willie, and it's still sweet in its own very unique and strange way. But I think the brilliant addition to this film was Kathy Bates, who plays his mum. Brilliant. I mean, Kathy Bates is just a tour de force anyway. What an actress she is. But she's fabulous in this film and absolutely makes it for me. She's just very, very funny. And some of the things that comes out of her mouth in this film, you're just shocked. I mean, you kind of expect it from Billy Bob Thornton, especially because you got used to his character, but you definitely don't expect it from Kathy Bates' character in this film. But yeah, we get it. Yeah, you could say they probably tried to ramp up, maybe inappropriately at times, the crudeness and the rudeness. But when you watch this together with the first one, actually, they're very, very similar in their tones and the humour. There's very little difference here. They just, I think, maybe cranked it up maybe one more notch occasionally in the second one, but it was fine. It worked for me. And again, that chemistry was still there between Billy Bob Thornton and Tony Cox. They're firing one-liners at each other, and then when you add Kathy Bates into that mix, it's just golden. I think really, really enjoyable. The Christina Hendricks character, you could argue the film didn't necessarily need it, but you understand why they did it, because you know they have to give I suppose something like that for Willie to chase in the film as they did in the first one, but the relationship isn't as sweet as it was in the first one, his love interest, I suppose. But again, the Thurman Merman character is in it enough for it to be relevant, and also I thought what they did with his character in this film worked as well. So I genuinely quite like this film. I do recognise it is clearly not as good as the first one in a lot of ways, but it is, I think, a worthy sequel when you consider a lot of sequels these days just are not comparable to the first ones in any way. This one I think stands quite proudly alongside the first one, so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked my double review for Bad Santa and Bad Santa 2. Definitely 2 alternative Christmas films to check out this holiday season, and stay tuned on the channel for more Christmas content and lots more top 10 lists as well as my regular content. So thank you very much for watching.